Behind me stands what is left of the mother parish of all German parishes in Platte County, Nebraska. The Church of St. Mary's is located about 4.5 miles southeast of Humphrey in the Grand Prairie Township of Platte County. I'm sure that anyone who's driven Highway 81 between Norfolk and Columbus has noticed the old church building rising above the flat countryside. This area was originally called Stearns Prairie, after Mr. O.E. Stearns, who settled about 2 miles east of here in 1869, establishing a store and a hotel. Stearns became the first postmaster of the settlement, and the area became known as Grand Prairie after 1872. Within the year, Mr. Stearns was joined by John Peter Braun, the first Catholic settler in the vicinity. Braun was born in Germany, immigrating first to Wisconsin before making his way here to Nebraska. He would be instrumental in the formation of the Catholic parish, he and his wife donating liberally to the support of the church. The German Catholic settlers, at the urging of Father Frederick Ewing, were finally called together at the home of Augustin Weiser for the purpose of building a church. Augustin Weiser and William Eimers each offered a strip of 10 acres. Weiser offered the grounds where the present Tarnow Church stands, and after considerable negotiations, the William Eimers site was accepted for the church here. The building of the church was agreed upon in 1874, but that summer grasshoppers brought devastation upon the crops. This and the lack of money caused the building to be delayed until the following year. Strict rules were set for membership of the parish. Everyone was required to make a contribution toward the building of the church. They were also expected to purchase a lot here in the cemetery, contribute to the priest's salary, and assist in the manual work in the upkeep of the parish. Lumber was purchased and brought from Columbus, while a brick foundation was placed for the wooden frame church. When the building was already partially up, some parishioners complained that it was too low to the ground, so it was moved about 100 steps to the south before being completed. It was finished in the fall of 1875 and given the name of Sancta Maria Angelorum, St. Mary of the Angels. Father Anselm Poots described St. Mary's in this way. St. Mary's was a structure that well might have been a barn. Its dimensions were 25 by 40 feet. The building was unplastered and nail kegs formed the support of the boards that served as seats. The altar had been made from pieces of washboard left over. On the altar stood a brass crucifix, and the foot ends of 2 broken kerosene lamps served as candlesticks. A white cloth lay on the altar. That was all. Several priests would stop at intervals to celebrate Mass, but at first there was no stable priest. Parishioners greatly desired a pastor who would speak their own German language. The German Franciscans arrived in Columbus in January of 1877. Father Ambrose Jansen made several trips to Stearns Prairie, first celebrating Mass here on Ash Wednesday, February 14th of 1877. Franciscan Father Anselm Poots was appointed the first regular pastor of St. Mary's. He was described as a youthful and vigorous man with bubbling zeal. Father Anselm enlarged the church, doubling its size, adding a small belfry, and making it resemble a church. Donations were made for needed items and vessels. And the cemetery was solemnly blessed on All Souls Day, 1877. Father Anselm lived at the monastery in Columbus and stayed overnight at farm places when he visited St. Mary's and the other locations assigned to him. He rode a stagecoach as far north as Battle Creek and attended to the Irish Catholics there. At first, St. Mary's was the only church between St. Patrick's at Shell Creek and St. Patrick's at Battle Creek. Other churches would soon spring up, several of which I will discuss in coming episodes. St. Mary's second pastor was Franciscan Father Monophilis Schmitz. The principal goal of Father Monophilis was to build a parochial school. The school was completed at the end of 1881. 5 Franciscan sisters from Lafayette, Indiana, came at the beginning of 1882 to staff the school. Only a few years after the Union Pacific Railroad connected Columbus to Norfolk, the town of Humphrey sprang up. Some farmers voiced their opinion that St. Mary's had not been built in the most favorable location, since the railroad ended up bypassing them. Instead, they opined, St. Mary's should have been built where Humphrey now stood. St. Mary's parishioners living in Humphrey pushed for a church and a Franciscan residence to be built here. Up to this point, the Franciscans were still traveling from their monastery in Columbus, 20 miles away. St. Francis of Assisi Church was dedicated in Humphrey in 1883. A Franciscan residence was completed in 1886. About 60 families from St. Mary of the Angels and 20 families from St. Bernard's joined together to comprise St. Francis of Assisi in Humphrey. From that point on, St. Mary's would be attended by Franciscan priests resident here in Humphrey. With the new church being built in Humphrey and St. Mary's Church becoming too small for the number of people, it was thought that St. Mary's might close in favor of Humphrey. But Father Valentine Doran Kemper kept the parish going. St. Mary's second church was built about 40 feet south of the old church, dedicated in 1893. Bishop Scannell commended them, saying, "I'm glad to see this beautiful church, especially for this reason, that your exterior works bear witness to the faith and spirit among you." In his annual report from 1899, Father Edmund Roediger reported, "The condition of the parish is excellent. The Catholic life is flourishing and produces estimable fruits." A new school was also built in 1905. This school building remains today, converted into a home. On April 29, 1925, St. Mary's third church was dedicated, the church that you still see behind me today. Even though threatened by cold, windy weather, this was one of the happiest days in St. Mary's history. At its dedication, the church was described as one of the most up-to-date rural churches in the state. The official Catholic directory records the declining number of students attending St. Mary's School across the decades. In 1935, there were 65 students, but by 1965, there were only 19. St. Mary's was indeed closed because of the small community and the lack of financial support. Records at St. Francis in Humphrey, which has all of St. Mary's records, state that St. Mary's of Angels Church closed February 12, 1967. Mass is still celebrated 4 miles away at St. Francis in Humphrey.